The words that we use on a daily basis have meaning. In order for effective communication to take place, both the sender and the receiver must understand the words that are being transmitted. Therefore, vocabulary comprehension is one of the most important skills that you will develop and master over the course of your life. Vocabulary acquisition or learning new words truly is a lifelong process. We learn new words almost on a daily basis. So over the course of this module, we are going to begin examining the basic skills that you need to not only understand new words, understand the words that you use, but become more effective readers and writers. So to begin, in our first lesson, we are going to start with the foundation, the basic building blocks of a word. These building blocks are known as word roots and affixes. What is the anatomy of an English word? Words are made up of what we call basic words that have affixes added to them. Typically, these basic words are Greek or Latin in origin. The affixes are what we know as prefixes and suffixes. So we will be looking at those a little bit more closely later on in the module. And in our next two lessons, we're going to examine some common prefixes and suffixes. So the original word, before adding anything to it, is what is known as the root word. A root word will form the basis of a new word, and it can stand on its own as a complete word. We'll look at some examples here in just a moment. However, root words should not be confused with roots. While a root forms the basis of a new word, it cannot stand on its own as a complete word. So let's think about affixes for just a moment before we get into some examples. Reality is that we encounter words that can be both long and difficult. But if we know the root words and understand affixes, it will help us to understand the meaning of those words. So we can take a root word or root and make new words by adding a prefix or suffix to it. The prefix is what is added to the beginning of the root word or before the root word. As a matter of fact, if you look at the word prefix, the pre means before. So prefixes come before the root word or root. Suffixes are added at the end of the root word. There will be times where we will even see prefixes and suffixes used together to make more new words. Let's take a moment and unpack the difference between root words and roots. As we learned just a moment ago, root words can stand on their own as a word. In our first example, we have the word reform. Our prefix is re, since it comes at the beginning of the word, and our root word is form. Form is a word that can stand alone, and it means shape. In the next example, we have the word phobic. In this case, IC is our suffix, since it comes at the end of the word, and the first part of the root phobe is phobia. Phobia is a standalone word that means fear. On the other side, the word audience, we have IENCE, which is the suffix, and the root is AUD, or odd. Odd, of course, cannot stand alone, and it means to hear. So if we think of audio, audio is something that we hear. The root word is odd, AUD. In our final example, we have project or project. In this case, we're going to look at project. Our prefix is pro. And the root is ject. This word cannot stand on its own. It has to have an affix in order for it to make sense. But ject means to throw. So as you can see, root words are words in and of themselves that we use daily. However, roots cannot stand on their own. They have to have those affixes added to them in order to have a word that makes sense. Now that we have an understanding of how root words and roots work, let's take a look at the other basic building block of our English words, known as affixes. We'll begin by specifically looking at what prefixes actually do. The purpose of a prefix is to change the meaning of the word. As soon as we put that prefix and attach it to the root word, it will automatically change the meaning. For example, let's consider the word unusual. The word usual means that something is common or ordinary. But when we add un to the beginning of it, it changes the meaning of the word. So the prefix un means not or opposite of. Therefore, when we add un to the word usual, we get unusual. Now it no longer means common or ordinary. It means not common or rare. Well, what do suffixes do? Again, suffixes may change the meaning of the word, but it's not going to do it in a major way. Suffixes work just a little bit differently. First, a suffix may add specification. In this example, we have the statement Mike is tall, followed up with the statement Mike is taller than Stacy. Tall, of course, refers to height. When we add ER to the end of the word tall, it specifies a comparison in height. Suffixes will also add plurality. what that means is more than one. The most common suffixes that we use in the English language are S and ES. They are by far the most popular. For example, when we add S to the word car, we get cars. That indicates that there is more than one car. So, like we said, suffixes will change the meaning of the word slightly, but again, not in a major way. It may make a word more specific, as in regards to tall and taller, or it could add plurality, indicating that we have more than one thing that we're talking about. There will be some words that will include a prefix, a root or root word, and a suffix. Again, if we understand the meanings behind the roots and the prefixes and suffixes, it will help clue us in onto the meaning of the word. Let's take a look at the example of the word destruction. All right, let's start by breaking it down. DE is, of course, the prefix, and it means opposite. Our root is struct, and it means to build. And then finally, our suffix is ION, and it means the act or process. Understanding the meanings of the individual components helps us determine what the word destruction means when considered all together. Since D means the opposite, struct means to build, therefore, destruction means the opposite of building, and the ION tells us that it is an act or process. So the opposite of building something, the act or process of the opposite of building something means destruction is to tear down or destroy.